Good morning.
Good morning. Apologize for the technical difficulties.
They happen.
Ruby's on her way. Ruby's on her way into the office and had a hiccup this morning, so it's all good.
We've had to reset our internet out here every day this week so far. Unplug the routers, plug them back in.
Gotta love technology.
I tell you. And of course, IST says, no, it's a Spectrum problem. The Spectrum says, no, it's an IST problem.
Of course. And the circular finger pointing begins.
Because nobody knows what's going on.
That's true. It's the interwebs.
Hey,
Hey, Angel, how you doing?
I thought it was me.
No. It was the meeting normally starts on its own. I think there was a setting that must have gotten flipped.
I thought you all were giving our.
I called Ruby and she's trying to come into the office earlier than normal today and I guess got tied up somewhere. She's like, oh my gosh, can you log in? Yeah. So we're good now.
I thought you all were giving us our Friday bet.
Sorry, Dr. Birch.
I thought my computer just quit. It's given up. It's finally said I've had enough.
Sure. All right. I don't know if Sharita's joining us today, but I think we've got
We have a
quorum.
quorum. Yeah.
Got all the current officials, and I see we've got James joining us. James, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, and I'm not certain that my presence is appropriate, but I'm a board member of Families Moving Forward in Durham, and I continue to have interest in this body and the problem that we all are addressing in homelessness in our county.
Sure. Well, welcome. This is the Homelessness Services Advisory Committee Executive Committee.
Right.
And we can introduce ourselves and sort of give you an update. Like today, we're kind of planning the April Hsac meeting, and we can do an introduction. And you're welcome to stay and join if you'd like, and welcome to join. And
I think
attend
I think more appropriate is that I joined the regular meeting and not the exec meeting. I didn't know that was a topic today, but thanks for your invitation, and I'll look forward to the next opportunity.
And this is a public meeting, so you're welcome to join. You're welcome to stay.
I
if you'd like.
understand,
Okay.
but thank you much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for your great work.
Thank you. Appreciate you serving on the Families Moving Forward board. And I know you've got a new executive director, and that's got to be an exciting time for Families Moving Forward.
It is. I think we're looking forward to the new normal after this continued COVID problem, but yeah, it's going to be a much better time coming forward, I think, for the shelter.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Well, you're welcome to stay. And do we want to do introductions, folks, or Madam Chair, where would you like to go?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. What?
I mean, go ahead. I'm listening to what you were saying. And we
Oh,
go
I was
ahead.
just saying, I think we can go ahead and get started with our meeting. If you want to do introductions and approve minutes.
Okay. Well, I'd like to prove the minutes that Dr. Birch had sent in. Did everyone go through them already? Is any mistakes or anything that was on there anyone wants to bring up?
I think I got the names right this time, Madam Chair.
Yeah, I looked over it this time. Did all 3 times.
Sorry.
What? Where, Sharita?
No, I didn't say, I said sorry, because I think the last time I was the one that mentioned the names being spelled incorrectly.
It's good. It's good this time. It's good. It looks good.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Thank you, Helen.
I will second that.
Okay, is that John? Okay, and Helen, thank you for last week. Appreciate it.
No, you're very welcome anytime.
Okay, so we got that up and out the way. You wanted to proceed with Colin?
Yes,
Or you-
ma'am.
Oh, you wanted to proceed with our names, but the gentleman is not on the line.
Okay, then we can just keep going.
Hi, y'all. You want to say who you are? You still the same person?
Well,
It's
since
I don't know if it was an April Fool's joke or what, you know.
yeah,
Hey.
since he left, we don't need to do introductions. I just
Hey.
figured we should do them if he was going to stay.
Now you see him, now you don't. Okay, okay.
My name is Michael Angelo. And I'm an alcoholic. Oh, this is the wrong meeting. I'm sorry.
I'm done. Okay,
Oh.
with that being said, thank you, Michelangelo. So Colin, we're gonna go ahead with the first one that you had listed on. It's gonna be a good day. He has to. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
Colin,
Yes, ma'am.
he's got me tied up right. Kind of,
What'd I do?
not you. The secretary.
I'm sorry, wrong meeting.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so
I'm gonna try to be on mute most of the meeting because I'm home. And I have Zuri, and if she hears people talking,
Zuri wants to be part of the meeting as well.
say hey.
She
Say
can join the
hey.
meeting.
Ain't no one else say hey. Say hey.
Hey. Aw, she's leading the meeting today. All right, look, Colin, would you like to go ahead and present what you had on there for the
I
first?
think we have working on the agenda.
Yeah, I saw
And-
that part.
And then we needed to carry over, I think it was the update on the scores for this. No, it was the system performance that we didn't get to.
That was what Lloyd was, right? Was
Correct.
it something Lloyd had to finish?
Yeah,
Is that
we just
correct,
didn't-
Lloyd? He didn't get enough time. It ran out.
Yes, that's
Mhm.
correct. Carried over.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think Lloyd, we also had a point in time count.
Yes, the point in time counts. Numbers need to be presented. They'll go into HUD by the end of April, so it's appropriate to submit them to the COC and the board.
Okay. How much? That's probably what, 15 minutes?
Yeah, I think 15 minutes should be enough.
For both of them, Lloyd?
No.
I think as Colin has it, 20 minutes for system performance.
Okay, I
and
see. Okay, I
15
see. I
for
don't have my
point time count.
glasses.
Should be
Okay, I
enough.
see it now. Okay.
And any other, and I know, Angela, you had mentioned you wanted to possibly invite a speaker.
Yes, Peter with Reinvestment Partners. And I guess he'll need no more than about 10 to 15, about 10 minutes, take 15.
What are we, let's see, give me 1 second. I gotta let somebody, I think somebody. Oh, no. All right, Ruby's here. There's just 2 of us now. Okay. Let me pull back up my screen share. What do we?
And
want
he's
Peter-
speaking on the hotels to homes
Okay.
that he's been doing.
How much time you want to do for that?
Give him 10 minutes. I guess 10, 15 minutes shouldn't take that much long.
I see Sharita's got a question.
Yes, Sharita.
I cannot remember if we talked about this, but I think I am curious about DCRC and their current kind of like status with not having a house, and if we could get an update from them on that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is this where we ask? Can that happen? Do you feel like the organization is ready to have that conversation? I just feel like we need to know like what the need is, because we try to make sure that we support them, because we need an IPV shelter in Durham. And so I don't know a lot of information about what's going on. And I just think it will be good, especially as we get ready to move forward to start allocating money and things like that, that we know what's going on with them so that we can support them in the best way.
Was it someone that, because I know they was doing transactions, moving people around there. Is it anyone to speak with that's in control now?
Yes, the president of their board came off the board and is now the interim executive director. Ashley Taylor Jacobs is the current interim executive director. I'm happy to reach out to her and invite her to speak for 5 or 10 minutes if.
Yeah,
How
so
long
we
you-
could at least know where they're, where we're at with them, or where they're at, period.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we could do that. Do a 10 minutes there, and I'm trying to think, we don't have anything we need to approve at this meeting, do we?
Madam Chair, to you and
Yes.
Colin, we had this conversation last month about BCRC. Is it anything else on that?
On their reallocation piece,
Right.
we are expecting them to get back to us, because that's going to be an issue that the Performance Management Committee is going to take up on their, I believe it's April 14th, 15th meeting, somewhere in that time frame, to talk about their performance and recommendations. So there may be something coming to HSAC at the end of April to talk about that. We did meet with DCRC, and they did share that they've got 8 households in the rapid rehousing program. And the folks who have been in there from anywhere from 2 months to almost 2 years. And they've got a few people who are currently in the process of searching for housing. So they feel like they've been doing the work. They just haven't been able to get credit for the work because they don't have the reporting system in place. So we're trying to find out when we will start getting those reports from DCRC to be able to verify that, yes, in fact, the work is happening. And when will they be able to report back to HUD on how funds have been spent? Because that report is now 6 or 8 months overdue to HUD. On the good news, they have been in contact with HUD, and we were part of those discussions as the lead agency, where they were kind of negotiating extensions with HUD for the reporting on this. So it's not like they've recognized that they have trouble, and HUD has recognized it, and HUD has given them, permission to basically submit their information late due to the database issues. And Lloyd, is there anything that I'm missing that you think needs to be filled in?
No, I
Ruby?
think that covers it for the moment.
So Colin, do you feel like, just in light of the information that we discussed in last month's meeting, if they come, that they're going to get questions about not only being able to report on the, just what's going on with the shelter, but they'll start getting questions about the rapid rehousing funds and the lack of reporting. Are you concerned about that at all? Do they have anything that they could present just to the COC to say, hey, we've been doing it, we just can't count it? Anything like that? Like, I don't want to railroad them, make them feel attacked, but I also feel like for them not to have a shelter, it just kind of came out of nowhere for me as a person who makes referrals to them. Like I had no clue. So
Yeah, I think they moved when basically when social distancing came in, they moved out of their shelter and started using hotel rooms. Then we didn't know that they didn't have an emergency shelter that they felt comfortable returning to until, I don't know, however many months ago it was. And they've been using state emergency solutions grant money to pay for hotel rooms. The last conversation I had, and I think the question was whether or not what work needed to be done to be able to go back into their congregate shelter, and whether or not that cost was going to be cost prohibitive. And there were, obviously, if you're a contractor and you're going to come in, you're going to find everything under the sun that you could do to say, hey, here are some things that you need to do and want to do. And then there's various ways of going through and doing it. I need to follow up with Ashley, but it seemed like they may have a plan and working with a nonprofit group to sort of address the most pressing needs to make their shelter usable. I need to go back and verify whether or not that's happening, what that time of completion is. But I think inviting them to come and talk to the Hsac is a great idea. And I hear what you're saying, Sharita, in terms of we don't want them to get blindsided and be put on the spot if we're having a reallocation discussion. We could put them on the agenda to talk about the IPV shelter before we get into a reallocation discussion, and then give them a heads up that later in, if a reallocation discussion happens at this meeting, which we don't know until we hear back from DCRC, because we've asked DCRC to go back and really take a hard look and determine whether or not this is a direction they want to continue going. And if they do want to continue going, do they want to continue at this, full price point? Or if they feel like it would be better for them to scale it down a little bit and reallocate some of the funds. And then based on what we hear back from them, performance management may agree, may disagree, and may come up with a different plan that they're going to recommend to Hsac. And if that's the case, that would be a separate agenda item that we should probably put a placeholder on here as if P&M, because I think if performance management recommends that they reallocate funds and DCRC doesn't want to do that, it's probably worth having DCRC in the room and being able to answer questions. And I suspect we should probably invite DCRC to the performance management meeting in April as well, if we're going to be discussing funding, so that they're at least aware of what's being said and can answer questions if they arise.
Yeah, this is Jonathan. I think this will be a kind of challenging conversation to have, given that there are potential conflicts of interest, because if we're talking about reallocating funds, we do have a lot of participants in the committee who could be the recipient of those funds. Mm-hmm. So that could get a little tricky. And I was under the impression that we're not quite at that point yet where we're even talking about allocation. I was under the impression that this might be more towards next year when their grant expires.
You're,
that correct?
so you're correct, Jonathan. This would be we would be talking about
Okay.
whether or not they would be applying in the 2022 competition
Mhm.
for the funds that would start in 2023.
Yeah.
And whether or not we or they want to give up some or all of the funds. And they may say, you know what, we're just not going to apply. They may come back and say, we don't want to apply for any of it. It's more than we can handle. We've got enough staff turnover that we need to deal with, and we need to go a different direction for the time being, and then maybe come back at a later date and go for another DV bonus project. Or they may come back and say, hey, here's our plan. We got our database up and running, and here's a report. And it's like, oh, well, then that changes some of the discussion. But I think a lot of this is, we'll just have to wrestle with it in performance management.
We'll be ready to wrestle with it.
Yeah. And then I hear what you're saying about an HSAC discussion where you've got members who, or even, and I think anybody who could apply for the funds would have to recuse themselves on any vote.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way we sort of neutralize that.
Well, we'll be ready. We'll be ready to have that conversation.
Yeah, I think Jonathan makes a good point, and I'd add that, I think people on the performance management that have a conflict of interest also should be invited to recuse themselves from discussions about it, because they may be speaking from, whatever they talk about also would be, coming out of a potential conflict of interest for their organization.
So there may just be maybe a few people who might actually be able to vote on or even have that discussion. So I'll have to look at the roster and kind of identify where those conflicts of interest are likely to lie. And we'll be prepared.
I guess technically anybody could apply for the funds.
If you want to be technical, that's true.
I mean, the VA could go apply for these. The VA could apply. The veterans group at the county. Jonathan, you could apply for these funds.
I could, but A, I'm not a VA employee, so I'm still good.
No,
And
but you work
C,
for veterans.
or, I mean, B, not C.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. I hear you. Yeah.
I think the only, Angel might be the only person who can't, because she's not a 501c3 or tied to a 501c3. That would be, she might have to be the only, and Dr. Birch. Might be
Does
the
she
only people who
have her
could
hand
apply.
open or her hand up there?
She would not be doing either.
You don't want to be applying for all these funds?
Not,
All right. Sharita, do you have other thoughts or questions?
Yeah, it just looks like her hand is raised.
All right, so we've got system performance, point in time count, hotels to home, DCRC. So I think it's worth having the DCRC discussion about their IPV shelter plans, is what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
Yeah, I thought that's what I had heard Sharita say. And the more I think about that, I think it sounded to me like, we're the concern, obviously we want DRC, oh goodness, DCRC, there we go. We want DCRC to be successful, but I got the sense maybe, we're just kind of also concerned about the bigger picture about what happens if, if they're not able to continue. I mean, are we going to have a IPV shelter? And if not, then, perhaps plans need to be made well in advance should they, forego applying for the funds again.
And they have other funds that they receive from the federal government. So these are not the only funding sources that they have to do work. And we, as we're looking at the city and county are looking at what happens after June 30th for non-congregate shelter, IPV is obviously on the radar. And, if there is a need, they could apply for funds to continue operating at a non-congregate shelter, just like any other emergency shelter who needs non-congregate space until we get the, I don't want to say an all clear, but yes, you can go back to full capacity in a congregate space. They would be allowed to apply for those funds as well.
DCRC has not been applying or receiving emergency solutions grant funds from the city with any regularity, and the continuum of care grant that they initially received in 2018 from the domestic violence bonus is specifically for rapid rehousing. It is not to operate an IPV shelter, just to make sure people understand those distinctions. I believe the IPV shelter has been receiving some Durham County funds to support its operations over the years, but I would be willing to stand corrected on that. And I don't have an idea of if they have been receiving funds. I don't have any idea as to how much that has been.
I don't know. But we can invite them and we can ask questions. Okay.
Conversation is always good.
Exactly. Let's hear what's going on and ask the questions. Okay. So anything else that anyone feels like we should add to the agenda? This looks like it'll be pretty full with a lot of discussion, even if we don't have to tackle a reallocation piece.
Looks pretty good.
Actually, you know what? I do have one other thing to bring up.
Sure.
Sorry, Angel, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Okay.
So, and the reason this bears consideration is it might be an item on the agenda, but I think you all are aware of Brady Kaiser was Families Moving Forward's liaison. He has taken another job. And Tammy Lawrence would like to fulfill her term. And so wanted to bring that back up and see if that's something that could be done. And as I recall, I think that has to be approved by the larger Hsac, when we approve the liaisons, right? So maybe if that is something that is okay, perhaps we could vote on that to have Tammy Lawrence appointed to fill Brady Kaiser's COC liaisonship for the remainder of his term. And she wants to basically take his place on the performance management committee. So that would also need to be approved too, so that she could be added.
So that's serving Brady. Brady was an HSAC member or just
Liaison.
a COC liaison? Yeah, just
Right.
a liaison on the performance management committee.
Right. But don't the rosters have to be approved for the committee assignments?
They do.
So basically it would be a motion to have Tammy Lawrence complete his COC liaisonship term and be appointed to the performance management committee.
All right, we can do that.
Yeah.
Does the HSAC feel, I guess, does this the question, Madam Chair, is, does this committee feel comfortable making the recommendation to Hsac to fill Brady's seat with Tammy, or allow Tammy to take Brady's seat, given that it was a Families Moving Forward person and you're essentially putting a new Families Moving Forward person in that seat?
Yeah, that seat was held by Shayna Carignan, and then, of course, her term ended, and then Brady Kaiser applied on behalf of FMF.
To be clear, the COC liaison seats are not assigned to any particular organization, but they're open to any COC members.
So we may need to, so if I'm hearing you right, Lloyd, is maybe what we need to do is make an announcement and ask for people to apply who are interested in filling that seat, rather than assigning it without publicly posting it, for lack of a better term.
I think that could be appropriate.
Is that the way it's usually done?
I don't know that we've ever had anybody leave before a term ended on a COC liaison seat.
Structure is kind of new, and we haven't, haven't had that much turnover. We just went through the first transition from the first set of liaisons to the second set.
It probably, from an equity standpoint, it's probably better for us to make an announcement for people to apply, and or send information that, who's interested in taking the seat, it's now available. Tammy can respond saying, I would like the seat. Others may say we want the seat. Executive committee in May can sort of decide on who they would recommend from those who do reply to it, and bring a recommendation to the Hsac.
Sounds good.
So you want to do that?
I support whatever is the appropriate, process, and I don't think, I don't think we have had this situation before. So if that is how, if we announce and seek applications and that's the appropriate process, then that sounds like the right decision to me.
And I don't know that there's a right or a wrong way. I'm just trying to think through
Equitable.
what's the best way, because essentially whatever we do now is going to set the precedent for the future. And we don't want to get into, oh, this is this agency's specific seat. Once you get appointed to it, I think it's better for us to err on the side of leaving it open for another, leave it open for a little bit longer and allow people to apply.
Makes sense.
And that way we don't ever get into a position where it's like, well, what do you mean you're going to put it out? Last time when you had that, it just went from this agency seat to this agency seat, and we're trying to get away from an entitlement place.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I think we got about 20 minutes left. We've got a pretty full agenda here. Whoop. Shoot.
Question, do
yes,
we have
sir.
to do a executive update?
It would be,
We didn't do one in the last full meeting.
no, we did executive committee in the last meeting.
No, we didn't do it.
We did?
We didn't.
Last meeting, I thought it was performance management.
It was.
No, last meeting, executive committee had a very, very brief update.
Yeah, we were supposed to, but because Vice Chair, Madam Vice Chair, she said she didn't have one because she had just got I noticed that she was gonna, so I don't recall us doing it, but we may have.
Actually, I did. I was
Oh,
very
okay.
short, and I said that I didn't have any answers to questions if anyone had
Got you.
any,
Yeah,
but was happy to let Colin or someone else answer those questions if needed. But I did provide a very brief update.
So it's a policy and planning update. So Sharita.
I'll try to be ready.
I'll help you.
and bring the baby.
There we go.
On the
Zuri
work.
can-
It was
Zuri
the
can
baby
give the
crying
update.
and not Sharita, correct?
Or they both could be.
All right. So I think we're good on that. Madam Chair, there was one agenda item that I forgot to mention to you because it came up when I was talking to Helen yesterday afternoon about we should probably start thinking and planning our elections that we have to have later this year.
Oh, yeah.
And not that we need to do it. So I apologize for not flagging that because I didn't think of it until like 4 o'clock yesterday. I was trying to get out yesterday evening. So not something that we have to necessarily deal with today, but something that we do need to be thinking through of the recruitment process to get people to run for secretary and vice chair, because the vice chair moves to chair. And I'm assuming Dr. Birch would, well, can't really assume, but Dr. Birch, I'm guessing you don't want to be secretary much longer and would be happy to allow somebody to come into that. And the question would be whether or not you would want to run for a vice chair seat.
But doesn't
Or
he
do I
just
have to run?
moved up? Does he run or he just gets moved up?
I think it's always ended up being they end up moving up because nobody ever runs.
Correct. Yeah, the only one that is that automatically moves up is vice chair.
Mhm.
Okay.
So you have to run for secretary, you have to run for vice chair.
And even if he agrees to move up, it still has to be a vote and approved by the board.
So we need to just
People's-
make sure that we're thinking through to make sure we've got at least 2 people who are willing to run. At least one person willing to run for vice chair and at least one person willing to run for secretary.
I might be mistaken. Hi, this is Ruby. I might be mistaken, but Dr. Birch, I think your term limits might be at the end of this year.
Oh, okay.
And
So
because
that
it's like-
settles that.
Yeah, so I remember seeing that when you were appointed or voted in as secretary. So your term limits for Hsac are up this summer.
Okay.
Now
And-
it's time to say goodbye
Now we can cry.
to all our company. Okay.
Well, no wonder Sharita's baby was crying. I mean, Dr. Birch's term is going to be up, it sounds like. Man,
Okay.
well,
And
you
the
know,
other,
it couldn't hurt to make an announcement about when the election is going to take place so that people have lots of time to think about, ask questions, those kind of things.
Exactly.
If I remember the interlocal, it has to happen in the first meeting after the 1st of July. So I think it's an August vote is the sooner, because we can't have, the way it's written, we can't vote before July. We have to vote after July. And that's why we have the automatic move up from vice chair to chair so that we have somebody who can actually call a meeting to order in August to then have a vote.
So it's a July mention, August vote, but we could put it out there in April now.
Exactly, to start trying to get some names and start putting together a slate of candidates.
secretary is a challenging role to fill.
Typically, we don't meet in July though, correct?
Right.
Correct.
Nope.
That's why it ends up being an August meeting.
We also need to consider that if possible, I don't think it's required, but it's preferred that at least one person on the executive committee be someone with lived experience. And
Yes.
right now, Angel is that person, so we
And we don't have anybody else with lived experience
on
on
board.
the board right now in that particular seat, because the person from the county, Michael Best, has never made it to a meeting, and we've been unable to contact him. And my understanding, Ruby, is the county has been unable to connect with him as well. And they're gonna be looking to repost for that seat at some point.
That's correct.
So, yeah. Angel, you want to run for secretary again?
Mm-mm.
One
No.
time's enough, right? And you didn't even have to do minutes when you did it.
And- Right, that was the good part.
So, all right, just things that we need to work on. So I'll add that, just make an announcement about looking for people who are willing to run.
Or Ruby, when will it be openings for people to apply with who's had lived experience for the board? Is there any?
I looked at the county website. They have not made it a vacancy yet. So they'll have to go through the process of notifying Mr. Michael Best. And then once they remove his name from the roster, they will open it up, and I'll be in communication with them about that. And I'll be sure to let people know when it's open and available.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
All righty.
Looks
Madam
like that.
Chair.
Yeah, that looks like it's a full schedule, full agenda.
It
There-
always is.
Huh? What'd you say, Jonathan?
It always is full, no matter what.
Yeah. Okay, well, with that being said, is there anything else to add to the agenda from anyone?
I don't think there's anything else to add to the agenda. I think I put it in the chat, Angel. There's a public comment at the city council meeting on April 18th regarding all of those funds that we need to do that whole needs assessment for. And I just wanted to make sure people were aware of that.
On the info.
Public comment on which?
I think it's on April the 18th. I got an email notification for it to sign. You can sign up for public comment.
About
The home funds and all of that, those funds. I got
Oh,
it.
yeah. Mhm.
About
There
the
you go,
annual
Con-
action plan, perhaps?
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Mommy. Wait a minute, baby.
I believe it may have been regarding the city's annual action plan for the
Yeah.
use of federal funds.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, she said, yep. All right, Zuri, yeah, that's it.
Perfect.
Well, if there's nothing else, then I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
And I guess I can't second it,
I
but can I?
second it. I second it.
Okay. Well,
I think Zuri thirded it.
second, you thirded, okay. Dr. Birch,
I'll fourth it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Dr. Birch, I usurped you. The way in which you get our meetings to adjourn is very inspiring, so I am trying to model myself after you there.
we gotta use them up now before we lose them.
Yeah.
I was mesmerized because Lloyd stopped walking. And so I
Oh,
he was just stabilized for a moment. So I was just mesmerized. So
He got his
Hard
20
to be a
minutes.
distraction.
Oh, always gets his exercise in our meetings. I'm
I
telling
know,
you.
right?
Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the day.
All right.
Take care.
Goodbye.
Have a good one all.
Bye,
Thank
take
you all.
care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Zuri.
They said bye-bye, honey.